Saxophone articulation. We're going to introduce two methods, and in the order which I encourage you to teach your students. First of all, there is the he, t method, which we'll do first. And then there is the onset of sound, or what Larry Teal calls the attack and release method. So first of all, we need to understand what the function of the tongue is, what part of the tongue we use, and where that touches the reed and or the mouthpiece. So first things first, there's a little mantra I want you to repeat and to live by with regard to saxophone articulation. It goes something like this. The top of the tip of the tongue touches the tip of the mouthpiece. Say that with me again. The top of the tip of the tongue touches the tip of the mouthpiece. Now, if you touch the tip of the mouthpiece, you're going to grab the end of the reed, which is where we want. Okay? So to show you here, the top of the tip of the tongue, tip, the top of the tip is the strongest part of the tongue. Now, the tongue is an extremely strong muscle, maybe the strongest in our body. So it has great ability to improve in speed and strength with practice. So the tip of the mouthpiece is where we want to aim. All right, so here, when I articulate, if I tried to pull the curtain back so you could see, that kind of motion with the top of my tip of the tongue touching the tip of the mouthpiece is what's actually happening. Okay, now there's some exercises that I want you to do here. We've already established how to breathe and to introduce air into the horn. So we just want to remind ourselves how to do that. We're going to breathe in for 4 counts. Like this, here, inhale. And okay, so we are established where in the mouthpiece our mouth goes, how to form the embouchure, how to breathe, and how to get air in there. We're in the proper place here to allow the reed to vibrate. Because remember, the whole purpose of this is to set the reed in vibration. That is how the sound is created. Okay? So, let's see if I can give you a good angle here. Now, what we're going to do is a series of he, t, 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 t. And you'll see an example of what that looks like on your screen to play along with. The first articulation exercise I want you to do as you look on your screen has 2 whole notes, 2 half notes, followed by another whole note. Now, we're going to start the sound by saying he, just to get the air going through the mouthpiece and to set the reed in vibration. After that, every subsequent note you are going to articulate with the syllable T. Okay? So I'll demonstrate for you. See here. So tempo is about. All right, so I'm going to allow myself 4 counts to breathe in. Ready? Inhale. And then I exhale. Okay? So we'll do that one more time, same tempo, and he. Okay, so we did a series of 2 whole notes, 2 half notes, and a whole note. Now, I'm going to put this next exercise on your screen so you can see it. And you see that we have 2 measures of half notes, 1 measure of quarter notes, and then a whole note to end the exercise. Again, we're starting with he, t, 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 t. Okay? What we're concentrating on throughout this is, of course, a good breath to begin. And then the top of the tip of the tongue touching the appropriate spot here. And we're just thinking about interrupting the airstream. The airstream is turned on, all right? The air needs to be pressurized throughout the whole thing. It needs to be turned on like water in a hose. And you are just interrupting that airstream by gently brushing your tongue on the tip of the mouthpiece, okay? So 4 counts to breathe in. Ready? Here it is. goes 1, 2. And then exhale. Okay, one more time. Here we go. Inhale now and play. The attack and release method, or what is often called the onset of sound, or what the famed saxophonist Jean-Marie Landex calls articulation 0, which means starting sound from nothing, requires several steps. Now, we've already gone over the he-TT method, which encourages air to be introduced into the horn and to get the reed vibrating with just an air start. Now we're going to talk about how to engage the tongue so that when the conductor gives you a nice cue, that there's not this delayed sound, which is often sound like a, where you hear a fa, what I like to call frying bacon. It sounds like frying bacon. We don't want that sort of onset of sound that isn't clean. So this method is going to help clean up the entrances of your saxophone section when you cue them in. So it requires a few steps here. You're going to see it on your screen there, and I've actually reordered the first two from Larry Teal's list. I think it's important for us to place the upper teeth on the mouthpiece as the first step. All right, get that set. Second step is to inhale. Third step is to assume the embouchure position. So set, inhale, embouchure. All right, and then after that, you're going to touch the tip of of your tongue on the tip of the mouthpiece. Okay. So again, set, inhale, embouchure, bring the tongue to the tip of the mouthpiece. And then the next step is to pressurize the air, okay? That is whenever you inhale, you have to bring the air from your lungs all the way to the tip of the reed. You don't stop it here in the throat. It must bypass that and go all the way to the edge, okay? So again, set the top teeth here, inhale, embouchure, tongue, pressurize, and then release. You have the sound, okay? So it requires preparation. And I mentioned this earlier, and I'm going to mention it again, and I tell my students this all the time. You must prepare the air, all right? So that is involved in this process, the inhalation. And then I'm always thinking about this image in my mind after I get to the point of pressurization, that if this right here is the tip of the mouthpiece and this is the tip of the tongue, that the release of that actually creates the sound. It's not the tongue hitting the reed that creates the sound. The air's already turned on. So whenever you pull the tongue away, the air is introduced into the mouthpiece and the reed vibrates, okay? So you're gonna have to practice this slowly. Go through all those steps like we just did. Top teeth here, step 1. 2, inhale. 3, assume the embouchure position by bringing the corners of the mouth in and the chin pointed down. Okay. 4, put the tongue on the tip of the mouthpiece. All right, top of the tip of the tongue on the tip of the mouthpiece. Okay, then pressurization, and then the release. Okay, all of those steps are crucial that you do those in that order. Okay. Now, we're going to put this into practice. And on your screen, you're going to see a little tonguing exercise. So what you see there is 4 quarter rests, all right, leading into 2 half notes, followed by 4 quarters, and then a whole note. So you have to spend some time preparing the air. That's why I've treated this first measure of rests equally as important as the rest. So I want you to spend 2 full beats to inhale, 2 full beats to set and to pressurize. Okay, so let's see if I can. Nice and slow like this. So we're going to inhale for 2. Ready, inhale, set, pressurize. Okay, now it's hard for me to speak those set and pressurize while doing that actually with you. So I'm going to count you off, and I'm not going to say set or pressurize, but assume that you're going to do that on beats 3 and 4. Ready? Inhale, exhale. Now at this point, I want you can pause the video and assess what you did well, what you didn't, and then I want you to try it again, okay? Now when you go back and think, what could I have done better? It probably deals with beats 3 and 4, the setting and the pressurization. So if I'm saying 1, it's on inhale. Okay, it's about setting the tongue and then bringing the air to the tip of the tongue and the mouthpiece ready to go, and then the release so that the sound is sort of ready to explode and to happen. I mean, explode is a aggressive word, but I just want you to understand that when you breathe in and then you pressurize, you bring the air all the way to the tip and then you release. All right, it's really important that those steps are in place and that you prepare your air so that your onset of sound is exactly where you want it to be. Okay, so take another moment, pause, and redo that exercise again. All right, the next exercise we're going to do involves keeping the air and the pressurization through the mouthpiece, through the rests. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, when I'm going to play this example for you, again, you have 4 quarter rests as part of the first part of this exercise. And you have a half note followed by half rest, okay? And then you have a quarter followed by quarter rest, quarter rest, and then a whole note. Why do we put those notes there, and why does it say still active in the rest? Well, the whole point of this is to keep the pressurization and the tongue in place through the rest, so that the onset of the sound happens exactly in the same spot that you want it to every time, and that there's uniformity of sound across the board, and it's all part of one phrase. Just because you see rests written there doesn't mean you have to breathe or that you have to exhale, okay? So we're going to try this one here. This is what it's going to sound like, and watch that I'm still engaged throughout this, all right? Here's the first measure of rest. Ready? I'm going to inhale. Set, pressurize. And then I exhale. So that means when I get to the rests in the second bar where it says still active, I'm actually putting my tongue back on the tip of the mouthpiece to prevent the reed from vibrating. And in the third measure, I'm doing the same thing. I play quarter note, quarter rest, quarter note, quarter rest, whole note, okay? So we should have that whole action there, all right? I'm just gonna visually show you what it's looking like. I'm gonna count you off. Ready? Here's the inhale. Set, pressurize. T, still active. T, still active. T, still active. T, and then release, okay? You can pause the recording here, redo that, assess what you did really well, what you could do better, and then try again. Again, the still active part means that you are engaged, your core is engaged, your abdominal muscles are still engaged, and that you're pressurized even through the rests, okay? Let's try that one last time. Here we go. Here's the first bar. Ready? Inhale. Set. Pressurize. And then exhale. Okay, so take some time to reflect on this. The 2 methods of articulation are the he-t-t method, which you do with beginners, and then there is the attack release or onset of sound, or as Londeck says, articulation 0, where we start from sort of 0 sound, but we're ready to go. It's all about the pressurization of air and that the tongue just interrupts the airstream. Okay? I hope you spend good time on this and get really comfortable with being able to execute and model and perform both of these on your own, but also so that you can detect when somebody is not doing it correctly, okay? Often people violently approach the beginning of this and they grab different parts of the reed. This example is very common. They'll get excited and do what's called a slap tongue effect, where they and then where they're grabbing a bunch of the bottom part of the reed with their tongue as opposed to the tip of the mouthpiece. So encourage your students and in your own practice to just lightly brush the tip of the mouthpiece. Good luck with your articulation.